Good evening, Jarmo Dorak.
Oh, look who's back. Well, if this isn't Commander Jeff Holland. What is this? You left me here for months and I didn't know what's going on. I couldn't even leave the planet. What is all this?
Yes, I know. I'm sorry, but we had to sort some things out. We had to be sure that your sudden reappearance here was not some trick by the enemy. You know what's going on in the solar system and such, don't you? So I'm sorry, we were precautious, yes, for a few months, I must say. But now, how do I put it? Well, you know, the headquarters says they believe you and they want you back for the job. But before you get in a regular way, you need to know something.
What?
You know who I am, and that there's a special department within ASTROCOHORS I've been working for a very long time. And before you get back into ASTROCOHORS Club and say, yes, you want to do this, I want you to know, well, this little adventure that some friends of me and I had some years ago, so that you understand what, well, the core of all this is. Are you ready? Okay. Go ahead. Make my day. Well, Arnold?
Hello, my name is Arnold. I'm the artificial intelligence of the ATLANTIS base. Please state your name and rank.
Your attention to the screen, please. When I will return, I want you to know if you want to do it or not.
Dorak, Jarmo, Commander. Commander in a mission for ASTROCOHORS Club.
Commander Jarmo Dorak, we are delighted to have you back, but to have you identified, we have to take some safety precautions.
Safety precautions? What are you talking about?
Our log files indicate that you went missing 6 years ago. Please state a report to indicate where you have been all this time.
A report? But why a report and how long and what?
It can be a short report, but I need something that I can compare to your other reports, so that I can make sure it's not only your voice, but also your speech pattern.
Well, okay then. At first, I must state that I've lost all feeling for time while I was away. I was following some traces that led me to a planet where the Temple of the Wind Harp lied, and the Black Cube of Knowledge. You know, chasing ancient artifacts and stuff. At first I had a creepy encounter with an old starship, a crashed starship lying in the woods. But finally I found the right marking. It was some sort of, well, I don't know how to describe it. Like, well, a thing, maybe? Anyhow, the marker showed the right direction and pointed right at the wind harp. This strange planet was protected by some sort of force field, so I couldn't find the structure of the wind harp from the orbit. But now I knew where I had to go, and I straight went there. It was an elevating moment that this search that has been going on for years now should finally come to an end. I approached the Temple of the Wind Harp, and there it was. The Black Cube of Knowledge. A voice talked to me, a strange voice, asking me questions and finally pulling me out of this reality into what they called the between space. Somehow a space between realities? You might call it that? I arrived at a strange place, like a museum. There I met a strange figure who referred to himself as the curator. He told me that it is my duty in this between space to study and to be a chronist. So this is what I did since then, to study alternate realities, stories, and what lessons and morals they have for us, for our reality. It was a whole, well, storyline. And I found the clues to the storyline all in this place, this strange museum, with lots and lots of books. And by doing this scientific research, I sharpened my senses. I never knew how long I was supposed to stay there. But suddenly, when I was finished with this timeline I was searching through, the curator told me that I shall return here. It was a strange... Oh, I use the word strange a lot in this. But I cannot say anything else. It was strange changing from this between space back into my reality. And I can't explain how and why it happened, but I suddenly found myself here. And that's it. That's the short report. And if you need anything longer, I'm happy to provide it. I have a complete report in my personal log if you need it.
Thank you. Identification complete. Welcome back, Commander Jarmo Dorak. Can I be of any service to you?
Well, this Jeff Holland told me that I have to ask you for a report about something he calls a little adventure that he and some friends had quite some time ago. So I understand something? Oh, there is a lot of something in all of this. I'm a bit confused.
I see your problem there. Well, you have the right clearance, so I can show you a report if you want to.
Well, this is what he said. Anything you can provide me, I think will help. So, if you could just show me this report, then okay. But first tell me, what a kind of report is this? And what's the point?
It's a report from Commander Jeff Holland himself, from the beginning of all the project. It's a report how we recruited people from Earth back then, and finally what happened to the so-called Unseen Empire.
Wow, the Unseen Empire? The attack on Earth and the destruction of the ship of the Great Emperor? Well, I've heard a lot about it secondhand, but I've never actually seen a report, if I remember it right. And I'm not a standard recruit like the others, so yes, this would be very interesting for me, and maybe I can see clearer. So please, go on.
By your command, bringing up report.
Report from Commander Jeff Holland about the events concerning the Unseen Empire. Reported 1 year after the destruction of the Grid. The Grid was a space station that shielded Earth from galactic events. Earth was considered to be protectable, so to speak. People of planet Earth lived completely unaware about what was going on around them. They did not know of the events that took place in the space around them and even on their own planet. And the same applied to me and my friends. We were born on Earth and we knew nothing. May my hand not tremble now that I start reviving the past that is decades ago. So let's turn back time. So let's reverse polarities and go back in time. Step by step, and let's take a look at the situation then. But return to what time? Well, according to the most used calendar of the planet Earth, they would be called the 1980s. To be precise, the end of the 1980s. Following Galactic Standard Time, the whole thing starts around the year 3020. At that time, the Space Fleet, that is the forerunner of the ASTROCOHORS organization, maintained the secret Base 1 on Earth. The Earth civilization was advanced in the opinion of the Galacticon scientist, but it still needed to be explored more closely. And since the year 3014, agents of the Galacticon have been on Earth who were not limited to research. They were supposed to find people on Earth whose minds were open enough to the galactic events and in this way help the Terrans to evolve. One of these agents was a certain Philemon Hoxley, who had come to my school as a teacher. He had noticed my friends and me, we were teenagers at the time, and decided to take a little test. During a school trip, he gave us a riddle to solve, and what should I say? We were a big group, we were young, and we loved it, so we took up the challenge. I don't want to go into the details of the riddle. It was a kind of scavenger hunt with various clues that should lead us to a particular person and their legacy. Just that much. We followed the clues and found a notebook. And this notebook should finally bring us to the solution. But instead, the notebook just gave us new puzzles that we somehow tried to solve. We were full of ambition and we really wanted to find out what was behind it. We'd cracked puzzles and drove all over the place following the clues, but we got to a point where we realized, no, it doesn't work that way. But we didn't want to admit that to Hoxley. We really wanted to solve the riddle, so we decided to get other help. And we found someone who said he was a professor of literature and lived at the Lake of Constance near the island of Mainau. We went to visit him. And it looked comfortable. It was a single wooden house with a thatched roof. The man himself was a strange figure, however. He wore a dark robe and he specifically asked about Onkendong's notebook. We didn't mention that name at all. When he got it, he started to laugh, shouted something of the essence and unlimited power that he held, and lightning began to twitch. Lightning bolts that set the house on fire. The stranger disappeared, and we had to make sure that we got into safety. We managed to escape the inferno. When we were outside, however, we found that the notebook was still in the house. But no chance, the flames were far too high. It would have been way too risky to go in again and try to save the book. So we stood and watched our first adventure together go up in flames and smoke. Dan O'Neill, the sportiest of our group, ran off looking for a phone booth. It was before the cell phone age and we had to somehow alert the fire department. With the house standing alone, we couldn't assume that anyone else had noticed the fire. Valuable time was lost and it was clear to us that no one would be able to save the notebook. This event dealt a severe blow to our group, not just because of the loss of the notebook, not just because we didn't solve the riddle, because of this situation. After all, someone tried to attack us, and some of the group couldn't handle that. At the beginning of the following year, our group had shrunk a lot. The younger ones in particular didn't want to be there after the last few events. And this even though Hoxley apologized many times for putting us into this position. In fact, a few fragments had been recovered from the ashes of the burned house, and I was supposed to bring them to a meeting with Hoaxley. He had invited the rest of our group because he had something to tell, as he said. On that day he told us that the search for the notebook and the subsequent search, which was all about the so-called Master of the Lake Constance, was actually a test. He told us about this organization of the aliens who observed the Earth and looked for people whose minds were open to the galactic events. Young people in particular. We had passed the test and proved that we were open enough to be drawn into these galactic events. We were of course very skeptical, but who wouldn't be if a teacher told you that aliens are monitoring the Earth and that certain galactic events are taking place without humanity noticing? Hoaxley promised that he would prove to us that he was telling the truth by inviting us to one of the hidden alien bases on Earth. It took some time, but it finally came in the summer. We were very curious where this base would be. The fact that this base was inside a rock in the middle of the Rhine Falls exceeded our wildest expectations. Here, the aliens had set up a kind of archive, and people like Hoaxley were contact persons. And since that we had proven that we were somehow particularly capable, we should become contact persons as well. We became so-called Y-Agent. I was called Agent T myself. Why, especially T? I don't know. It was just like it was. It wasn't that everyone got a letter. There were also numbers and combinations of numbers and letters. There didn't seem to be any order there. And while my buddies were given the job of helping set up a new base at Lake Constance, I was given a special job. In the galaxy, I was told, there were two irreconcilable alliances, the Pacnor Alliance and the Vosrev Alliance. The dominant people in the alliance or empire of Vosrev were the Udessar, and here recently a ruler called Roshka had come to power. He was called the Wise One, because he had signaled that he would start new negotiations with the Pacnor Alliance. The negotiations should result in the differences between the two alliances being resolved. Now there was a third power, the Arzels, ancient beings who viewed events in the galaxy with concern. They wanted to move the negotiations forward and decided to set an example. This example was supposed to take place on Earth, as the planet was neutral due to its situation and belonged to neither of the two alliances. And I should travel to another alien base that should play a special role in that example, and learn about the specifics of galactic politics. Wow, politics, galactical scale. How nice. But, hey, it was something different. So I said yes and went on the trip. Well, and then I was there. Yes, during these days I've taken the train a lot and with pleasure. Not so today, mainly because there are actually hardly any connections left. And if there is a connection, it's at the most inopportune time. At that time, the railway world was still okay. There were still trains, there were still many connections, and the train drivers in Germany were still civil servants and did not go on strike. And so I arrived very punctually at this village over which the Schaumburg Castle towers majestically. And as befits a secret mission, I also had contacts and code words to use. For example, I had to tell my contact person at the train station, "The moon is green, but I prefer popcorn without salt." Then I was told where I had to go, to a former inn. Everything is nice and quiet here. The birds are chirping, and there's hardly any traffic on the street. Well, with around 600 inhabitants, you can't expect that much traffic. Berlinstein is the name of the place, and... what is that? Something's moving in the tree up there. A cat! And there, another cat. Why did I notice this? Well, because cats were cute even before the age of the internet. I don't know why so many people are annoyed by cat videos. Cats have always been around, and they have always been so cute and do such cute things like playing with balls and strings or, well, scratch your furniture or whatever. Especially in this place, it was noticeable how many cats were hanging around here. But I didn't want to be distracted. So, despite the cute fur owners rolling around here, I decided to do what I came here to do. I entered the house in a conspirational manner. And just to be on the safe side, I had been given a stun gun. Okay, there is one thing I still have to get used to with this whole thing with the aliens. So my contact person was also a cat, or shall we say a cat being. And like in a tax authority, I was sent to the next clerk. From him I got the goal of my little excursion, where I should go directly, not pass go, and not collect any money. I was ordered to go to the castle. No, not this one. This is not a castle, but the ruins of a castle. Not in good shape. Because the goal of my journey, yes, further, even further, much further, there, Schaumburg Castle high up on the mountain. Looks like I'll have to walk. Or is there maybe a spaceship that can pick me up? Obviously not. Well, okay then. But finally, even the toughest ascent is done. Well, finally. And now, use a code for the very last time. Hey! You there! Guard!
Yes, sir?
When it comes to chess, I always confuse the Red King with the Green Queen.
Then you should urgently work on your understanding of chess, sir.
What? Hello, this is a code. I've been told to come here and tell the guard just that.
Yes, of course, sir. I know, sir. Just kidding, sir. I'm sorry. I'll take you to Commander Osira at once.
Haha, very funny, but thank you.
You're not 1 second early, sir. We expect an important diplomat to arrive with a spaceship at any moment.
Oh, really?
Yes, Commander Osira will explain everything to you. There she is. Commander, this is Agent T, Jeff Holland.
Greetings, Agent T. I'm Commander Osira, the commander in charge of all operations on Earth. You come in a historic moment. We will soon have a piece of the Odessa's state treasure returned to them, and that soon.
The Odessa state treasure? What?
These are the famous runestones from Bagastol, stolen from Odessa a long time ago. Now they should return there.
Commander, the computer reports enemy approaching.
What? But how is this possible?
Your computer confirms that it is a fast Imperial assault fighter.
Fast assault fighters usually start from a large battleship that has to be somewhere.
I confirm. The battleship is attacking our diplomat ship in orbit, and the space fighter has set a direct course for us.
Then they want to sabotage our diplomatic mission and get the runestones into their hands. Agent T, get the runestones out of here and to safety.
Yes, I do. But where do I go?
Bring the runestones to the new base on Lake Constance. We want to see if we can return them to the Odessa at a later time. Now security is paramount.
If you think so, I just arrived here and have to go. Can somebody please tell me why I'm on the run now? This meeting wasn't successful at all. Man, I hate those guys. Oh man, the main gate is going to be secured. But that doesn't matter. There's sure to be a side exit. Well there, that was easy. And now I can hide in those bushes, while all around me, apparently, all hell breaks loose. What is going on here?
Attention, defense fighters immediate launch, defense fighters immediate launch.
Oh dear. I hurry and get to the train station. Well, that means I can ride by train again. Yeah! For the purposes of the report, I would like to state what happened next. The Securator, our ship, was attacked by an Imperial ship. She was ready to take the diplomat to safety with the help of a shuttle. The Blue Danube was ready to launch. The Blue Danube was not supposed to fly to Base 1, but to be diverted to the new base. This base was called Atlantis. Before takeoff, the shuttle made contact with the Atlantis and received a beacon. The approach vector was 279, only if you're interested. Still standing in the hangar, the shuttle was shaken by the explosions of the attack. Then the Atlantis corrected the approach vector to 282, just to be exact. The shuttle took off, but shortly after takeoff, the crew discovered that there was an intruder on board. The Blue Danube was therefore unable to confirm the new approach vector. The ship was heading straight for a couple of trees, because it was going in the wrong direction. And so, the shuttle crashed, unfortunately. Great. So far, all of these missions have not been particularly successful. We lost the notebook, then Base 1 had to be abandoned because of the attack, after which the castle began to deteriorate. The diplomat was attacked near the Earth by an Imperial force, and it is only thanks to the grid that nobody on Earth noticed. And the runestones of Bagastol were not returned to the Odessa either. I had no choice but to write a report and hope for the new year. Please. And the new year was soon to come. This year, changes were announced in the life plans for the members of our small group. After all, school should be over and the seriousness of life should begin. That's why we were allowed to have a little vacation, and also because the opening of the Atlantis base was at least a small success. Our destination was Hamburg, and that meant we could take the train again. Yay! We didn't know how close we could keep in touch after school was over. But my friends Jack T. Greeley, Mel Gannett, Dan O'Neill, Mac Simmum, and I decided to give it a try. After all, our small group, our small fantastic project, had already shrunk. But that's how we wanted to keep it. The Fantastic Project. Those were our conversations on the way to Hamburg. We had enough time. After all, to get there, you had to travel across Germany from our location. And a technical note, all other events in this report take place in Germany, so a lot of German is spoken. From now on, I will continue to translate that into English for that report. So you hear me translating instead of the original speakers. So now we were in Hamburg, and it was strange to see all these famous places. And we didn't have to go far, because our hotel was located at the so-called Reeperbahn. Nice choice. Oh yes, this was the time of the big famous musicals, like this one, Cats. This is also a famous street for, well, love for sale. Now, to be fair, one has to say that Hamburg consists of more than the district of St. Pauli, and St. Pauli consists of more than the Reeperbahn. So, we took a trip around the city and its famous harbor. The tour gave us the opportunity to talk to Hoxley, who had stayed with us as a supervisor, so to speak. Somehow he saw it as his duty to constantly cheer us up. Yes, there had been a couple of setbacks, but he kept emphasizing there had also been successes. For example, what about the notebook and the riddle of the master from Lake Constance? Yes, the riddle was not solved and the notebook was burned, but we discovered other things instead. A medallion, for example, that was with the notebook. That was another lead. Yes, the medallion was important. It was an old, a valuable medallion, and in the old times this medallion was used for a special technique that involved the missing. Oh man, these things are loud. Well, in any case, Hoxley told us that because of that, the medallion was very important, and that it was important to keep the medallion safe. The same was with the runestones of Bagger Stol, who had an also interesting backstory. It was all about when one day... And that's why Hoxley thought we shouldn't worry about failures, but celebrate the successes and enjoy the trip to Hamburg. And so we did. We were visiting all the places that Hamburg was famous for. Then we went back home again. By train! Yay! Back at home, the opening of the Atlantis base was celebrated. It was also celebrated that, thanks to the help of the many auxiliaries, the diplomats' crashdown had gone off lightly. Thanks to the excellent camouflage, nothing had been exposed, and even now the people of the world did not know what was happening behind the scenes. They were just enjoying the feast. Base 1 was finally abandoned and evacuated. The Atlantis was now the new headquarters. However, Osira had retired from the position of commandment. The new commander of the mission was Commander Jochen Wruznicek. The Atlantis base consisted of various buildings spread across the city. These buildings were connected by railways via underground tunnels. And while we watched the rescue workers perform an exercise at the festival, another surprise was waiting for us elsewhere in the city. Finally, at the port we learned that the special location of the Atlantis base, at a lake, had been taken advantage of, and a submarine has been constructed for it. The name of the submarine was Lake Quest. It was designed half for research and half for base defense. We heard some other news and plans. For example, it was still a matter of returning the runestones of Bagger Stol. And for the fact that the Odessa were actually portrayed as a rather warlike species, they were quite patient. Their new leader, Vroshka the Wise, was evidently not unjustly nicknamed With all these wondrous things, my friend and I had to be careful not to lose our feet on the ground. After all, we had to live a normal life on this tiny island called Earth. And while the Atlantis went into service and my friends and I tried to imagine our future, we had no idea that we were being watched from the far reaches of space. Just like you watch teeming bacteria in a drop of water, how they multiply. The observers were very interested, at first slowly and then more and more definitely. The plan to destroy grew in them. But none of us would have believed it.
We learned where this riot group is going. My lord, the Emperor orders that the actions be continued there.
Yes, somehow normal life has to continue, regardless of extraterrestrials. We all took the next step, training, getting a profession. Although it was a new challenge, I got the impression that something had passed me by. I had to make a decision that would affect the rest of my life, but somehow I got the impression that I made that decision, that I didn't have enough information to make that decision. I had the impression that something had been withheld from me, that I hadn't been presented with all the options. Since secondary school, life seemed to run on rails. You do this first, then that, then comes this, then that. Everything was somehow already fixed, and I didn't like that. Where were the opportunities to break out, treading new paths, or making your own paths away from the rails? Yes, I'm interested in computers, but I also wanted to be creative, and I didn't always want to look after the money commercially. I wanted to help other people. But that was simply not part of the concepts that were presented to me. I had long conversations about it with my friend Max Tronick, who was in the same class of the vocational school as me. But he didn't feel as out of place as I did. We also made new friends here, and that was a bit of a distraction. But if my doubts grew smaller, they never quite died down. Was that really right? Was that really right what I was doing? Did I make the right decision? At first there were individual thoughts that formed mainly when a problem arose. But then the doubts became permanent. And then, finally, something else happened that reminded me that we were not alone in the universe. I got a message over the radio that spoke of an impulse wave, but then the connection was lost. So it was clear our Imperial friends were back, and they had let us know that it was now something personal. Why else would they have followed us? Since Max knew more about electronic things than I did, I decided to meet with him and clarify what exactly had just happened. It took a little effort for Max, but he was actually able to locate the source of the energy pulse. What we didn't know was exactly the reason why the energy pulse had been sent out. It didn't do any damage. It shook us a bit, but that was all. To us, it felt more like a declaration of war. Well, something like, hey, weird things you wear. Did your mom dress you? After consulting with the Atlantis base, I got permission to put together a team and take a look around where the impulse came from. Since Max and I were the only ones on our team in the area, and Max was supposed to monitor the search from a distance using a scanner, I quickly recruited a few of our new friends. Well, to tell you the truth, that's an exaggeration, because so many of our friends haven't been that open-minded about the aliens monitoring the galaxy. In the end, exactly 2 candidates remained from all of them, Agneta and Andana. And so the 3 of us went to the place where the impulse had its origin. This point of origin were allegedly unused cellars in the old city fortifications. This particular part of the city fortifications was on a hill surrounded by a deep trench. There was only one entrance from this side, and this led over a wide bridge. So while we stood there looking at the buildings, we discussed what we should do. Well, it was actually pretty easy. Go in through the gates, see if they are stopping us, collect as much information as possible inside, and then out again. There and back again. Just as simple as that. Very easy. A Sunday afternoon stroll, if you will, even if it's now Tuesday morning.
Captain, surveillance reports 3 people approaching across the bridge.
Is Jeff Holland with them?
Yes, sir.
Then let them pass. They will have a little surprise.
So, now we're in. It was very easy. Told you guys it'll work. What we need here is a little more optimism. Well, maybe at the time I should have better said something like, I have a bad feeling about that. But unfortunately I couldn't say whether I should have a bad feeling or not. After all, it was the first mission I led, and I had a strange feeling in my stomach anyway. Whether it was because of the last meal or the fact that I had the feeling that something was wrong, I couldn't say. We snuck past a guard and decided we wanted to take a look at this ominous basement. To do this, Agneta should wait outside and warn us in case something unusual happens. To do this, I had to give her a brief introduction to the communicator that the aliens had given us. That was a difficult undertaking because I have to admit I did not fully understand the functions of this device myself. But in the end I did it, or shall we say I thought I did it. And so Andana and I were able to get into the fortress. Oh, so the bad guys are holding books on Boolean algebra. What kind of devilish plan could this be? It was getting strange. According to Max, we were in the right room, but there was no machine here that could have triggered the impulse, only books and a film music CD. It was time to get a really, really bad feeling. And when I took the CD to have a closer look at it later, an alarm went off. This was a trap. Who would have thought? No one would have believed. Our somewhat hectic escape ended in a dead end where we had to report the loss of 33% of our team. She fell down the slope right into the hands of the Imperial ground forces. And after they'd caught her, they wanted to have us as well. And Dana and I continued to flee, but no matter which way we tried, more and more ground troops came towards us. We were surrounded. And after all, we were finally cornered on the battlements. There was no escape from here. The situation was hopeless. We were in the hands of the Imperials. At this very moment, there came a message through from the ambassador telling us that they will get us out. Hey, this must be that famous Deus Ex Machina. This is awesome. I think everyone should have one. At least that's how we escaped for now. Now we just had to bring our findings back to the Atlantis base, and that as inconspicuously as possible. And that means take the train again. Yay! And as you can see here, at that time, it was still possible to just leave a suitcase at the train station without the bombing squad being alerted. So we were on our way to Atlantis base. And while we... What is this? Has this train no end? Hey, this is getting ridiculous. Please stop. The audience knows already that we're on a train now. Could I please have the map as a link to the next scene? Please. Well, thank you. It was about time. Now, as I said, we were on our way back to Atlantis base. When I got there, I immediately gave the CD to the analysts. And as it turned out, it wasn't a CD with film music on it, but a data CD. But wait a minute, if the Unseen Empire stores its data on CDs, why are we using those stupid impractical floppy disks? Well, in fact, important data was also stored on this CD. The operation may have been a trap, but the bait was real. Very nice that we finally got some information about this ominous empire. At least this year ended with a small triumph. And that was something to write home about. Personal record, time 3024-0602, reported by Jeff Holland. I am back again at the Atlantis base. This last block of school did not silence my doubt, to the contrary. But the past 6 months have been very strange anyway, even the weather. Now I'm looking forward to spending the summer here and getting some distance from the whole thing. Maybe this will clear my head and I know what to do. And I'm especially looking forward to seeing my friends again. It's been too long.
Commander Fürstencheck. Was ist denn da los? Warum der Alarm? Es ist nachschlafende Zeit. Weil nicht mindestens eine Invasion des Imperiums bevorsteht, kann sich derjenige, der den Alarm ausgelöst hat, aber auf was gefasst machen.
Es tut mir leid, Sie zu stören, Commander Fritzencheck, aber wir haben ein sehr heftiges Gewitter da draußen. Wir haben Überflutung und alles. Sie sollten besser sofort in den Kommandostand kommen.
Ja, ist gut, ich bin auf dem Weg. Oha, das sieht hier wirklich übel aus. Wie sieht's aus? Gibt es irgendwelche Rückmeldungen von der Basis?
Wir haben Überschwemmungen in der ganzen Stadt, Sir. Die Basis meldet Wassereinbruch in den Gebäuden 7, 2, 26, 28 und 12. Außerdem laufen die Schnellboote voll Wasser.
Nein, das klingt gar nicht gut. Holen Sie mir sofort Holland her. Er muss sich einen Überblick verschaffen und er muss sein Team zum Einsatz bringen.
Jawohl, Sir. Mr. Holland. Mr. Holland.
Oh, wenn das um die Uhrzeit nicht eine hübsche Frau ist, dann schalte ich die Kommunikation sofort wieder ab.
Oh, ich weiß, dass Sie seit längerem schon ohne Partnerin sind, aber dass Sie es so nötig hätten.
Penny, sagen Sie bloß nicht, Sie rufen mich um die Zeit an, um mir mein Single-Leben vorzuhalten.
Nein, Sir. Commander Frunznicek wollte, dass ich Sie hole. Wir haben einen ziemlichen Gewittersturm hier und es ist schon Wasser in verschiedene Gebäude der Basis eingedrungen.
Wie schlimm kann das schon sein? Naja, egal. Ich mache mich auf den Weg.
Glauben Sie mir, es ist besser so. Bis gleich dann.
Heavens, what is that? Oh dear. This was really outstanding, and there was Commander Frutzenjek waiting for me. He expected me and my team to inspect the base and the flooded areas. In my opinion, this was much too dangerous for anyone who was not prepared for that kind of job, as we were. This was a thunderstorm unlike any thunderstorms I've seen before, at least as far as I remember. And it's not good to play around in high water. Apart from this, there were specialists who could do this job, and the specialists were also alerted. I showed Vruznicek what was going on outside, and there he could see it. The fire service was on its way, taking care of the floodings as good as they can. But for us, there was nothing more that we could do, except wait for the end of the thunderstorm and the end of the night. Because for the moment, not only did it rain, it was black, pitch dark. It was much too dangerous. Commander Vruznicek agreed with me, but then the rain stopped. We decided to wait until the end of the night anyway. Vruznicek pointed out that it was a thunderstorm unlike any thunderstorm he's seen before, or rarely. But this phenomenon will be seen more often in the future. I asked him why, and he told me that the scientists of the space fleet had found out that the CO2 level in Earth's atmosphere is rising too high, so that a global warming has been tipped. It will be a challenge for mankind in future to reverse the effects and to stop this climate change. Humanity has to become sensible. And this is another reason why the organization recruited people from Earth, like me. In this very moment, Vruznicek's assistant came in and told us that the fire service is on the job. They were working on several buildings of the base, trying to get rid of all the high water. So Vruznicek decided that it was a good time to go to bed again and to speak about everything in the morning, when it was light and we could see what happened. The assistant wished me a good night, and so we went our ways.
Oh, hey.
On the way back, I came across the emergency medical service department. And I was thinking about my situation again and that I had to change something. But right now it was too late at night. So I went home, all alone. Atlantis Base Computer Logbook. Time 3024 0807. Jeff Holland reports. Last night's storm was pretty severe. Roads were flooded and streams and rivers overflowed their banks. Now in daylight we are in the process of inspecting the damage. But more importantly, we have to repair the damage before someone takes advantage of this. And at this point I was reporting to Commander Wrocnicek in person. The teams had not yet finished inspecting the buildings, but another team under the command of my close friend Marion Elsie was at the beach. And we already knew that at the beach there was work to be done. For one, all the boats that we used there were flooded with water. And the tower at the beach that is used as a defense tower was damaged by waves last night. So Marion and her team had not only to clean up the boats, but they had to repair the damage at the tower. This is a plan of the tower, and there are several spots that are especially vulnerable. The bindings got loose, but they will be secured soon. I had Maxtronic to supervise all the repairings from the central room of the base. Dan O'Neill was also already at the beach to support Marion Elsie and her people. And at this very moment, I wanted to contact Marion via the communicator.
Hallo Marion, hier ist Jeff. Kannst du mich hören? Marion, hallo, kannst du mich hören? Bestimmt hockt sie in dem Boot und hat ihren Kommunikator wieder auf dem Steg oben liegen lassen. Marion, könntest du freundlicherweise rangehen? Ich versuche später nochmal.
At this very moment, the Imperial flagship was approaching the planet and the Great Emperor gave the command to attack the Atlantis base.
Fighter squadron ready to attack. Ground troops ready.
Then there was the red alert. We had to secure the base. Wrocnicek ordered me to save the medallion and then go on help the troops defending the base. We expected the first of the waves to arrive at the beach soon. So I had to get there quickly, but at first I had to put on my bathing suit. We didn't know exactly what was to come, so Dan went straight to the tower. I ordered Marion to stay on the dock. Another team member, Sandy, was to support me and Dan at the tower. We did not yet see the troops approaching, but we knew that they were coming. Marion and Kara had to secure the boats. Two other members of the team had to go into the water to secure the signal buoy for the lake quest. The buoy would ensure the sub would find its way back to the beach, so it could help defend us. And another team member tried to attach the tower's safety ropes underwater. And then the first building exploded. Commander Frutznechek reported that we had to give up building number 12. But that was not all. More was yet to come. Frutznechek told us to stay strong. Everything was prepared, the tower, the dock, the boats. And as a safety measure, the main gate of the boathouse was also opened so that the people on the beach would have a place to retreat in the event of an emergency. Simpkins, the commanding officer, gave the command and the door opened. I have to state that at this very moment I also arrived at the tower and waited for the things to come. And then it happened. The first ground troops arrived and we were in the middle of a battle.
Hey!
The Lake Quest couldn't find the right direction because the signal buoy was out of order at this point. But our two team members did their very best. And there was already the next wave of attacks in the form of fighters coming. They were heading for yet another building. Oh dear, they got us this time!
Fire in building number 3. Calling fire troops.
Then suddenly those troops went away, so Marion and Kara went over to the tower to help us. But we realized that the problem has gotten much bigger. Not only was there a giant invasion army, but they also used destructive insects to cut our power lines. The power in the main part of the base failed, so they had to start the emergency generator. At this moment, rescue from above was approaching. The ambassador was the first to notice this, because the Udasarian battlecruiser Machkrach came into standard orbit around the Earth and asked if it could help. It was an offer from the Udasarian government to fight together against the enemy, the unseen empire, and to defeat the great emperor once and for all. We were, of course, grateful for the offer, and it wasn't a second too early. The ambassador in space and the Atlantis on Earth were in dire straits. But the Machkrach first had to get into position, so we were forced to hold on for a moment. Unfortunately, despite the arrival of the Machkrach, the Imperial troops did not give up the attack. And I was wondering, once this menace is over, could there be some sort of age of resilience? The unseen empire offered simple solutions for complicated problems. And all they had to do for being successful in a way was to install chaos in the galaxy. But could the chaos overwhelm all of us? But no time for philosophy, because... Finally, the base had energy again, just in time to check the status of damage. But the damage value was off the scale. What a useless scale! Nevertheless, the defense mechanisms were still working. So we fought back. And then, finally, the message got through. The defense tower was holding. Marion and Kara did it, but the signal buoy for the lake quest was still not fully operational. The team was still working as good as they could. Then came the message in from the ambassador, and we too received with joy that the Odessa would support us in the fight against the unseen empire. But we also heard that the Odessa battlecruiser would take another moment, so we still had to hold on. Well, and that's what we did. Unfortunately, an Udasarian battlecruiser like that needs a lot of preparation. When the cruiser's in battle, It shows what it can do. But first all the energy generators have to be started up, and these must be switched off for the normal flight. At this point, the captain of the Ambassador decided that it was time to attack the fleet directly in space without waiting for the UDESAR. Otherwise, the situation would only get worse. Another wave of attacks had come through. The buoy for the lake quest could not be secured, and despite all the measures, the tower lost its structural integrity. Commander Vruznicek had no choice but to order the evacuation of the beach, either across the pier or directly towards land. All people had to assemble at the boathouse. Another generator had exploded. The Machkrach was still being prepared, and we prepared everything for the evacuation of the beach. But finally we heard the radio report from our own Air Force, which was approaching the Atlantis base. They had been stopped by a small attack fleet, but now they came and attacked the space fighters that were flying over the Atlantis. Lieutenant Commander Simpkins prepared everything in the boathouse. The beach was evacuated and more of our people arrived there. Some over land and some out of the water. With that, the tower also exploded. Our forces fought back, but our line of defense was getting thinner and thinner. In addition, in all of the chaos, I hadn't noticed that a person was missing. Then there was a radio message from the Machkrach. They were ready and about to put an end to the attack. And then I finally got to the boathouse. But Simpkins immediately informed me that Marion was missing and asked me if I wanted to look for her. Of course I wanted to. But I didn't know what the situation was like out there on the beach.
Hey, Marion!
There, I found Marion, but no time for reunion, because the Machkrach was preparing the attack on the flagship of the Great Emperor. A great shot that was 1 in a million. The Emperor's flagship had exploded with him on board. 3/4 of the Imperial fleet was also destroyed by the explosion. The rest were damaged and on the run. It was a great cheer. Even the captain of the Machkrach thought the fireworks to celebrate the day were a bulwark against a new enemy. The mistake was quickly cleared up. But with this collaboration, a new era was to begin. No longer should the fronts in the galaxy harden, but peace should be made. Cooperation should be the new keyword. But at this time, we were only at the beginning of this process. The future was wide open. This is Jeff Holland for ASTROCOHORS reporting. Report end.
Report end here.
He calls that a little adventure.